Welcome everyone to Alcoholically Correct. I am JB. I'm joined today and always by
Zach, here to tell you what you're wrong about today.
Of course. Although I gotta say, Zach, I don't really know that with today's topics we'll have too much disagreement. Maybe we will. We'll see. But
Pretty sure we're always going to disagree.
We'll find a way.
In some way, yes.
I promise we'll try to make it interesting no matter what. But before we do that, how's the week going? I always like to ask.
Yeah, my week's actually pretty decent. Everything's great. I do actually have a job. Well, I mean, I haven't started the job, but I have a job. Probably.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, being employed. So how's your unemployment life?
I was going to say, as a furloughed cast member, did you know that according to the governor of Florida, 90% of full-time cast members or theme park employees have been called back? But according to the many theme park employees that I call coworkers that posted, what the hell is he talking about? I don't know if that math actually adds up or not. It'd be interesting to break down, but that's not the topic of the week, of course.
No, exactly. And MGM, when you're speaking of furloughed workers, MGM just fired all 18,000 furloughed workers that they had.
Oh, smokes. MGM as in like the casino out in...
MGM, yeah.
At first, because obviously we were touching theme parks, I'm thinking Disney, and there was the MGM Studios, which is now Hollywood Studios, and I'm like, wait, what? Why would one park lay off people? We're talking Vegas. So, wow, that's horrible, though. I don't want to make light of that. That sucks.
Yes, no. But their reasoning was kind of crappy. They said, it's federal law. And it's like, no, there's no federal law that I know of that says that you have to fire your workers after a certain amount of furlough time.
It definitely can't be a federal law unless the major theme park that I work for that just emailed all of their furloughed cast members that are still furloughed and said, hey, this is going on longer than we thought. We're trying to keep you on furlough as long as possible and bring everybody back if we can. But the furlough continues.
The furlough continues.
I know, right?
Sounds like a really, really terrible movie.
It does. It sounds like the way that Star Wars was starting to go. anyways, that's a whole nother topic, show, day, whatever. We're going way off course.
Yes, we are. So what are you drinking?
So what are we sipping on? I kind of went with a couple of staples from other shows. I got my Kona Light, the blonde ale. I really did enjoy that one, so I'm finishing that up. I got some Yinglings as backup if I run out. Given today's topic, I might run out. I might be drinking heavily. So
yes.
So how about you?
Well, so I'll probably switch throughout the show, and we've got like 3 different types of beers. But first one is my Pumpkin. I love it. It's the Southern Tier Brewing Company, and nice. Oh my goodness, it's my
it pumpkin
favorite.
Spice season already?
It is apparently pumpkin spice season at Starbucks. This is Pumpkin Week.
Oh wow!
Apparently, because they just did that, and everybody hates.
I don't know if it's sooner or if they're just thinking, the way 2020 is going, we better not chance it that we're going to make it to October.
We're starting this early.
Exactly.
So it's a pumpkin beer.
That is a pumpkin beer. Yeah. Okay.
It's my favorite. No, it's just called Pumpkin because they.
Some guy named Pum made it.
Beer.
All right. I'm sorry. I like to ask the obvious questions for the dummies in the audience and myself.
Like, is it a street light or is it a traffic light? No one knows.
No one knows.
Cool.
All right.
So I think we're ready to go jump
to the
in.
Topic. Yeah, liquor's just normal stuff. You got some vodka. I got some JB Fire. Again, I wanted to go heavy, so
cool.
Let's do it.
Cheers. Okay.
And we will jump in on the topic. So, we had a conversation during the week where we were talking about, riots, protests, everything going on in 2020. Joked about it, saying we may not make it to October. Because I genuinely am starting to see rhetoric get really dangerous. I think everywhere, to be honest with you, on both sides. I saw people talking about essentially doxing police officers from a police precinct because one of them was involved in a shooting that we aren't going to get into that topic, but
to be fair, hold on, they're public servants. Is it really doxing them if they're a public service?
Yeah, when you start releasing them on Twitter profiles to kind of angry mob type people, it is. Now, don't get me wrong, that's not I guess you're finding a way for us to disagree. I appreciate it. That's not the overarching theme, and that's not the most important part of this. I just wanted to show that, I do think the rhetoric's getting dangerous everywhere. Obviously, though, I think the rhetoric's getting way more dangerous when we now have anti-protesters going and inciting death and violence on these protests. So we were talking about that, and we decided that riots was definitely something that we all could kind of get into talking about, and that it's obviously a much bigger recency bias might make it seem a lot more intense, more scary because it's happening now. But it's been happening a lot longer than any of us have been alive, because it's been happening longer than even the country's been here. But just in America, it's been happening essentially pretty close to the beginning. Actually, maybe
before it was beginning.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yes.
So perfect segue. I'm going to throw it to you. Give us some historical context on riots and protests.
Well, I'm going to give you some of the ones that I thought were kind of interesting. Sure. So we're gonna go at way back. It's everyone's favorite riot, and we may or may not remember it, but it is the Boston Tea Party, and it's associated with the Boston Massacre, as we called it. So basically, we got pissed because of taxes.
Right.
What happens is the government, the Britain or Parliament or whatever the heck they were at the time, Great Britain, said, oh, hey, you know what? We're going to go ahead and tax certain things that you can only get from us. Tea, just a few other random ones that I don't really remember because I didn't write that in my notes.
Tea was the big one. It's the one we hurled into the sea.
Well, yeah. And so basically it was tea, and it was a bunch of different other things, but they were all they were imported. They had to be imported.
Right.
And so we were getting pissy because our basically document that we had with them, our legal agreement, said maybe we don't have to, we shouldn't have to ever be taxed like that, and we should have a member over there that says that we get our say, basically.
No taxation without representation.
Yes, exactly that.
They were poets back then too. What you gonna do?
Yes. In any case, so in 1770, a bunch of British soldiers were basically being picked on by a mob. When I say picked on, they were being spit on, causing problems, but they weren't really doing anything bad per se. Spitting on people's bad, but they weren't hurting them. Although then what happened is the British soldiers kind of got tired of it and fired some shots, and a bunch of people died. And then 1773, we had the Boston Tea Party, which is America's great thing, but it was a riot. It was absolutely a riot. We rioted. We destroyed private property from the British Indian Tea Company or whatever it is, a trading company, and we picked up their property and we said nah and destroyed it.
Right. Well, okay. Can I pause you there for a second?
Sure.
Because that was kind of another part of our chat, our show prep type chat that made us think this would be an interesting topic, was because I was saying, essentially, I did not propose this as the thing. I was talking again about the concern of people going out and essentially committing vigilante justice, and then people in mass talking about not only supporting it, but calling him a patriot and all that for it. When I think that you should just admonish anything like that leads to death from an individual citizen, especially, just like I think you should admonish it when it is police brutality and all those things. So, which has been my frustration with the political side I used to affiliate with, as has been a running theme throughout us doing these. But what I wanted to get into there was, I did say, because somehow it came into, the destruction, the violence, and I was saying, yeah, those are crimes, and they should be processed as the crimes they are. Arson's arson, destruction of property is destruction of property, all those things. But that the most important thing we should be focusing on as a country, and especially as a people, as we're having these conversations and pontificating on things like podcasts and stuff. I'm saying it now while I'm not drunk.
Yes. I was like, oh, how long have you been saving that word? You feel like that was a word that you saw on a calendar. You're like, ooh, I'm going to use this one.
Oh my gosh. No, I'm not going to do it. Norm MacDonald had a really great joke about something like that, though, where he uses this really complicated word as he's saying, I try to learn a new vocabulary word every day. Today I learned, and it was somewhere or something after using a word like cornucopia. But anyways, yes. Okay. So as we're all doing this, I really think the message should be able to be, no matter where you're going to fall on the political spectrum, right? No matter who you're going to vote for in November, no matter what you support, what you believe, that when someone goes out and commits an act that leads to someone else's death, everyone should be able to say, you know what, there's something wrong there, unless it was unprovoked self-defense. You can't put yourself, in my opinion, in a position to need to defend yourself. That is not your duty. It's not your responsibility. It's not even your legal right.
Well, so here's the thing. So you're talking about death. Yeah, of course. Very few people want to condone death as a valid means of that. Now,
wrong. That's what's scary. That is happening right now. And again, it's people I used to affiliate with. So I'm not the extremist leftists that always thought they were evil. And now it's like, oh, they're showing their evil ways. I am shocked and dismayed at the people who literally are calling this kid a patriot. They did a GoFundMe for this kid and he had over $100,000 in like hours. It's crazy. And so people are condoning it. And that's why I thought this was an important subject we needed to broach. But the whole point was that, I'm sorry I keep sending us off course, but was that I was saying that the other was crime, and you kind of gave pause there, right? You were like, well, and that's where you brought up the Boston Tea
exactly.
Party.
No, and so crime is not necessarily bad, and it's kind of the whole game of do the ends justify the means. I don't think that you need to necessarily murder people. That's probably bad to get your point across. But sometimes when you just try talking, that's not enough. If people don't listen, and it's happened multiple times throughout history. So again, first great example that we can think of off the top of everyone's head is the Tea Party. What happened? They had tried to, discuss it. They had tried doing everything. So what we did instead is we said, you know what? We're going to go ahead and show this in our anger, and it still didn't completely fix the problem. So we ended up having an entire civil war and had to kill people eventually. But it was a whole different thing.
Wait, you mean the revolution? Are you calling the revolution civil war because
it was technically a civil war at the time, and now it's a revolution.
It was within it was happening within the colonies. It's either if you win the revolution, if you win, it's a revolution. if you lose, it's a civil war. Oh my gosh, is that a saying already? Because if not,
I don't know, but it's true. I was going to
say, if not, that needs to be a t-shirt or something. That's amazing. Although I think that kind of incites the violence that I am, dismaying and speaking out against. Again, so maybe not.
But that's the issue, is that it started with that, and so they started to escalate, right? They tried talking wasn't enough. So then they tried, rioting and destroying property, in which still wasn't quite enough.
Right.
So right after that, though, let's skip ahead just a tad bit to the next kind of fun rioting. This one actually also resorted to full violence and almost was a mini civil war. You might not know this, in between 1791 and 1794, we had this thing called the Whiskey Rebellion.
Ooh, so the name is familiar, but I don't think I know anything about it.
So yeah, the Whiskey Rebellion, basically what it was George Washington, after, when it all started, we started putting taxes on rum and whiskey that were being distilled in the States because, we needed money and we didn't have money.
And because technically that's taxation with representation. So here you go.
Yeah. So basically, there were a bunch of distillers that got pissed about this and said, I'm not paying. And there was actually uprisings, an entire army was created that was fighting. It was crazy.
That is crazy.
It was a full-on mini civil war just because
what
they
year
didn't
was this?
want
91?
1791 to 1794.
Wow, a 3-year issue too. Okay, wait. So what happened exactly? Obviously they were taxing it, and then what was the battle? What was the other side wanting them to do? Just stop taxing it?
Right. Yeah. They said it was an unfair tax. So the distillers were having to pay this unfair tax. And look, here in the U.S., we like to riot about taxes a lot. We have a lot of issues about taxes.
I mean, people like to forget it because obviously the protests that have been for racial injustice and all have gone worldwide. But the first protests of 2020 that were happening in multiple spots were the anti-mask and anti-lockdown protests. So people will protest a lot of shit. I'm not surprised.
Yeah, people get angry. People very much get angry.
Right. Which again is why I do want to temper some of my panic, so to speak, of the fear of the rhetoric and all. So,
but so again, there's a difference between protests and riots, though. Protests are fine.
Absolutely.
Riots are a protest that's gone sideways. Now, again, that's just a whole...
That's what I'm saying. You're kind of the one saying, like, they kind of need to do that. Although, again, that's where I do agree with you to the degree that I don't think we need to be shutting down protests to end the riots. I believe we need to be fixing the problems leading to the protests to get the riots to stop. Because
that's exactly the point. Yes, what you've just described right there is... do the ends justify the means is basically yes. So protests didn't do anything. So what do we have to do? We upped it to rioting. And it's happened multiple times throughout history. Again, Whiskey Rebellion. And guess what? In 1802, they repealed the taxes.
Really?
Yep, 1802. So, yeah, it was like 6 years later, 8 years later.
They're taxing them now, so do we need and never mind, I don't want to do that. Okay.
No.
I just, it's alcoholically correct. I figured we're going to have people that really enjoy alcohol. They're going to want to, Anyways, okay, go ahead. So they did make change. Riot. So change came.
Change came. It was delayed, but basically there was like a big blowout in 1794, and the whiskey rioters kind of went home. They just basically had to kind of go home. They lost a lot of crap. Basically, they lost the mini Civil War.
Fair enough.
And so they all went home. Next major one that I thought was kind of neat was in 1886. We had the Bayview riot. The riot, this one was for an 8-hour workday, because their work days were well beyond 8 hours. And so this is where all around in the 1880s, there was a bunch of rioting going on first it started with protests, and then it turned into rioting, and it was based around unions and the ability to unionize, and people wouldn't do it, so they were basically preventing it. So you know what? A riot happened. And
so people would have done it. They weren't allowing people to do it. Right?
Yeah, basically. People wanted to, and it was basically what a union was. It was a bunch of people who were like, oh, we can band together. And then there were anti-union...
There's more of us than there are of them.
That's basically what it started with, and eventually they didn't do that, so they started rioting and destroying property. And after you just started destroying property, people were like, you know what? Now I've got some skin in this game, so I don't really want my property destroyed, so maybe I'm going to help fight for the change to begin with.
Fair enough.
Because people who might not have had skin in the game before now do. So next major section that I thought was kind of important was the 1960s. There was just a crap ton of just civil unrest throughout that entire time, and riots and race riots, basically. This was fighting. This is where MLK was, and
Detroit was I don't know the exact one, but I believe Detroit was I don't mean to throw you on the spot if it's not one that you had, but I think the largest riot that ever happened was in Detroit.
Could easily be the case. I didn't go that deep into it.
It was 1960 something, and it was essentially that it was when redlining and all that was still happening, and so you had all of the African Americans in this community partitioned into this tiny little bit of the city, and there was I think there was a total in the city of Detroit, there was a total of 40 or 60 African American police officers, and then hundreds if not thousands of not. And it was essentially, which of course in the 60s it was in a lot of places, it was essentially a white power stronghold of the city. Yeah. It might still, in some towns and cities, it seems like it might still be that way in 2020, but that's obviously, again, the conversations we should be having, trying to find those cases and work on those cases together as a people, not trying to pretend they don't exist and pretend that people are only upset about them because it serves them politically. But anyways, go ahead. So.
Yeah, exactly. All throughout there, they had tried protesting for a while, try to make things better. Protest didn't work, so they started, actually rioting. Again, property damage. Now, once there's property damage, people actually care because they're like, oh, this actually affects me now. And it actually led to the Kerner Commission. And so basically it was, Kerner Commission, it basically was, it created a fact that hiring more minorities, forcing more minorities to be hired as police officers. It created civilian review boards, all sorts of good stuff.
Oh, wow. So wait, and this is in the 60s, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my Detroit example would fall into that one of those
correct.
that helped lead to this thing. There you go.
Yep. So that was kind of the entirety of the 60s. There was a lot of race riots and also against police, being dicks. Because that's kind of what was happening. They would just beat people because they could.
Yeah.
Any case, Kerner Commission came in, cool things. So it actually, again, a protest that turned into a riot was finally solved. The problem, as you said, went back, fixed the problem. The riot stopped.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the problem I will at least vocalize, because I don't want this to become some kind of ideological, like ignore this for that. There's also the side where people just suck a lot of times. And so people, like with any other movement, like we'll get into this if we ever get to that religious episode we seem to keep teasing every week, but like people who abuse and use faith to propose and support really awful things that have nothing to do with faith if you really break down the message. But and I'm not giving any that's not pointed. That has nothing to do with this topic. What I mean by that is horrible people will always try to find a way to attach themselves to strong and good movements. And so, in these riots throughout history, and especially in today, there are some I'm trying to really work on my language because we do want our families to be able to listen. But there are some really poor people, morally, all that will take advantage of that and that will end up defended even. But that's why, again, like you said, like they finally figured out in the 60s. They didn't seem to figure it out with the whiskey thing. And what I'm hoping and praying we're going to figure out in the 2020s is like start working on the things that are making so many people go out there, and it'll be harder for those terrible people to hide.
Exactly. Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah. Fix the problem and you're good.
Fix the problem.
So next one is going to be 1992. You were actually alive during this one. It was, you won't remember anything, but you were alive.
I was 6. You don't know. What was it about? Maybe I was out there and I barely remember it because I was 6.
Los Angeles, the riots. It was another one
this
about
is Rodney King.
Yeah, it's all that stuff.
Yeah. So I do know that one. It is funny how history works. Like the closer it is to your life, the more things kind of like stick, and the more you explore that information kind of arbitrarily throughout your life, where you're like, oh, what was that about? I kind of remember hearing about this. So I do know a bit more about what happened there, but please, I want you did research more than I did for this topic.
Again, it was stuff where it started out protests, nothing changed, so we turned into riots. It was, again, about police brutality. There's kind of a theme. Rather than taxation, now we're talking about police brutality. So we started with taxes, and then we moved from taxes as a nation to then we moved to unionize and work days. And now we moved past that to race and police brutality and kind of what's happening there. So, we're moving as a country.
Go ahead.
So basically, the whole thing was trying to get police reform and reform throughout there. It finally got implemented, right? So the riots ended because they started implementing reforms. And the reforms didn't happen until after people started rioting and destroying property and getting everyone involved. Crazy enough, once the riots happened, so basically Los Angeles Police Department, they had an approval rating of about 40% in 1991. That only 40% of people liked the cops, to about over 75% in 2009. Now, I don't know that percentage is still up there, but in 2009, they had 75% approval. Now, in minority groups, they had about a 55% approval, but overall, it massively increased from what it was.
I wish that you had, or I had looked it up or something, the information for where it's at, because Dave Chappelle, and I won't go on a whole thing, but I just want people to know they should watch Dave Chappelle's latest, it's like a couple months old bit, so to speak, his latest special, but it was 8 minutes and 46 seconds or whatever. I don't know the exact number of seconds, but obviously it was related to the whole George Floyd thing. Long story to say, he told a story about a shooter that had started off as a policeman in LA that became like a sniper in LA because he tried to report, abuse of power within the department, and he basically got his life ruined over it. And which is another different issue, which is an issue for our people who are policemen, by the way. But we're not talking police reform here, so I don't want to, what do you call it? But I'm just saying that is an issue where you, like this guy, your life, your career, everything can be ruined. Your life could be in danger depending on the power, so to speak, held by bad people within your precinct, your city, your town, whatever it may be. Doesn't mean we don't need to work on the issues, but I'm just saying it does mean we need to be fully aware of those types of things. But I say all that to say, I can't imagine that the numbers went good in and around that time. I believe that was about 2016. I know, I believe that he correlated it to going to LA while this was happening, while the shooter was on the loose, during Kobe's last game, which I believe was right around that time, like 2015, 16. So if that was 2009 numbers, I would be really interested to look that up. Maybe we'll throw that in notes or something somewhere on the episode, because it is just interesting.
I'm sure
to me.
It's dropped massively, especially now.
Yeah, and I would rather see what 2019 was. 2020 is going to be a really interesting year for those numbers. There's a lot of stuff going on with that.
But that's where we're at now, right? So we're talking about the riots of today. So even now, if you look, majority are actually peaceful protests still. But we're still protesting. And so what's happened is the riots didn't start immediately. Immediately it was peaceful protest. And then the cops, unfortunately, started pushing back against the protesting in a lot of ways. They would disperse the crowds, so they started applying force. So then rioting came into a lot more, because it's like, whoa, hold on. So they're using extra force. Now it's art, like we need to come back. And so you start rioting. And so, again, property damage. Now you have people who are involved. And so that's kind of what I really think we're trying to determine here and talking about is a riot justifiable? And property damage ever justifiable to solve a problem? And I think absolutely. Because, again, if you're doing peaceful protests, if you're trying to do things in a normal way, we've been trying to do that for years for a number of things. And what's happened? Absolutely nothing. It's been the same repeat thing, repeat. So the only time we see change really start to take effect is when you up the game. You have to start getting people involved, because not everyone's going to be involved with this protest. I mean, it's just not enough.
Well, that's the thing. I understand what you're saying. And I think one of the big things you said to me as we talked more about this was, I sympathize with the rioters. I sympathize with why and what, the motivation of, and let's, again, I just want to be genuine. What some of them are doing this for. It's not all of them.
Absolutely.
But on that point, and I smiled a while back and then I told you go ahead, weirdly, because I didn't say anything, but it's because I was going to say this. So I do want to be able to bring this up. We always dismiss conspiracy theorists. And I'm not saying this is a conspiracy theory, but to people who disagree with it, it would be. But you said how the protests were not only largely, almost en masse peaceful. And I was actually going to say they're not only still going on today, the protests, they are going on today at record-breaking numbers. At one point, we had 50 states with mass protests happening, which had never happened ever. And then on top of that, you saw them in France and you saw them in other places around the world. And so, again, that to me was a very clear message of, no, something's wrong.
Sure.
But wait, the conspiracy theory. The riots are sometimes caused by jerks who are taking advantage of an opportunity to be the jerks they want to be. Steal, damage, destruction, whatever it is, just because. Hold on. But it also is people who are jerks, who are worse than jerks, who are assholes and words I'm trying not to say on our show, that are out there causing these things to try and shut down these protests. That is happening. There have been proven cases where that happened, where it was self-proclaimed white supremacists and all that are out during these Black Lives Matters protests, which again is not an organization that's running all these protests. That's an absurd conspiracy theory as well.
Yes.
But what I was getting at is the idea that a lot of the destruction, a lot of the riots, a lot of the, is actually where people are purposely trying to diminish and displace the message of the protests, which is we need to work on racial equality, we need to work on police brutality, etc., etc., etc. So,
yep. No, and that's not a conspiracy theory. There have been proven examples.
Exactly.
So, I mean, there were examples. I do agree,
but like I say, I just wanted to call out the fact that anyone who listens to us that does not agree with us on that is going to call us conspiracy theorists. So I'm going to say, hey, I can attribute to what some people call us conspiracy theory.
See, no, that's not.
It can be proven. I'm not saying it is. I'm saying, like, I'm willing to admit that even if some people, because it's a lot of people that would call it a conspiracy theory, a lot of people, I could get you hundreds that are wrong that would do it.
Now, not every single one of those riots, in fact, probably the large majority of them, were not the people, like, they were not just people, like,
good point. Yes, they weren't doing them for that purpose. Right. Right.
No, that definitely did happen, and it occurred in numerous cases.
Because, like you said, because people like you, who are also actually out in these protests on a regular basis, feel the same way you do. I'm tired of being out here day after day, week after week, and nothing's changing, and people are trying to diminish our message. I'm going to do something that makes people pay attention. That does happen. I disagree with it in the sense that when it's all settled, the people who can be proven to have done that should still pay for some form of a crime they committed. But I do not believe what they're trying to do right now. I do not believe in enhancing the penalties of those crimes right now when you're doing nothing to improve the situations that has these massive groups of people out in the first place. So
no, everyone's angry. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to make it so that these angry people get in more trouble. What they're doing is really wrong. Wait, no. We're angry. There's a reason people are angry.
Because again, we've had protests longer than any of us, including old people, have been alive. And so these laws and these things were good enough then. So you're changing them not because the protests have got worse. You're changing them because you are trying to shut them down, which is completely un-American.
Yeah, so don't poke the bear, basically, which I just really wanted to quickly bring this one up. My next beer is actually called Don't Poke the Bear.
Nice. That's cool. I'm kind of close. I mean, if you want to kind of go over anything with this topic, or if you have anything before I cut you off there, but I'm kind of close to moving on, not only from the beers, but the topics, if you want to move on to topic 2 soon. But did you have others you wanted to cover?
No, I mean, they're just the ones that are going on. And again, it's
just now.
The question there is, so as far as I'm concerned, violence, rioting in terms of property damage absolutely has a time and place. And I mean, eventually violence does too, but that's a whole separate beast. That's when you start to talk about civil wars and revolutions. But that's a whole.
So there you go. That's a whole different topic. I don't want to even get close talking that now. But what I was going to say is I understand what you mean by they have a time and place. I don't agree with that fully. Okay. It's not the step I would like to see taken. It doesn't mean no one could or should do it. But I think the conversation needs to lift above whether or not it's okay. Because I think we need to make a hard line in the sand, and I think we should be able to, as a people, step over that in mass. That buildings and vehicles on their own, not you're coming after me, my family, someone in their family, whatever it is, buildings and vehicles do not hold any level of the same value as human life, even a shitty human life. Like those people should be punished for whatever their shittiness is if they are committing crimes. But what I'm saying is What I'm saying is, on either side, I think it should be an easy thing to say that even if people, so that's what I'm getting at. You cannot put people who are burning down buildings and setting cars on fire into the same spectrum as people who are shooting people.
Right, of course. No.
And that's what I'm getting at. I know we agree on that. I'm not trying to, what I'm saying is, I want people to be, I don't care who you vote for. I don't care where you end up falling. I want to see that be the overarching message that you should only kill somebody if it is in defense of someone's life, someone's, No,
someone's life. Stop.
Life.
Full stop.
Yeah, thank you. You're right. Full
stop. No.
I was trying to find another example. Someone's life. Yourself, your family, whatever it is, or even some innocent person. That is the only time. And
correct.
Again, just like legally, if you want to get into standard ground and all those laws, not now, just like legally, it is no longer permissible. If you are in somewhere you are not legally permissible to be, you do not get to claim self-defense when you put yourself in a position looking for your life to be in danger. And that's again,
it's so fucking stupid. Excuse my French.
So
sorry.
It's so wrong. No, thank you. I appreciate it because I feel like I drop all the F-bombs. And in life, I feel like you curse more than I do.
I definitely curse more than you do outside of the podcast.
Outside of the show, yeah. I think I just get really worked up.
I got my Disney thing that from working there previously. You have the Disney voice and Disney activation. You're like, oh, cool. I'm Disney mode.
Yeah. See, but what happened is you left like over a decade ago, so you still can turn that on. I stayed with them so long that I do it so often in my regular work life that at home it's like, F that.
Yeah, exactly. No, I feel you.
Anyways,
cool. I think we're good there. Ready to take a shot?
Moving on to topic 2. All right. Let's do it. I am ready for a shot after that topic.
So, for some reason the vodka is just not on point today.
I'm telling you, man, get yourself some JB Fire. I know it's Jim Beam Fire, but I love calling it JB Fire.
I absolutely refuse to do that.
So good. I'm licking my fingers because I spilled a little. That's how good it is.
I was about to say, you're just licking your... Okay. You know what? You do
they're
you,
clean.
homie.
I washed my hands before the show.
Oh, boy. So I want to talk about Reinheitsgebot. Reinheitsgebot.
No. I disagree. We're not. I know it's your topic, so I can't really say no, but no, because I'm confused and it sounds scary. No, go ahead. What was that? What are we talking about?
It's Reinheitsgebot. I can't. It's tough. It's a German word. It's basically the German purity law of 1816. I know we mentioned it in a previous podcast.
Wait, of what year?
Sorry, it's not 1816. It's I think 1618.
1560?
1516. Sorry, whatever. 1516.
Here's the thing. 3 weeks ago, whatever it was, hopefully whoever's watching this, they aren't watching in any order. There's no order to these shows. But a few weeks ago, when you first brought it up, I put you on the spot and asked you if you actually knew what it was. And you mostly did. It seems like you've done some more research and maybe know even more. But also, you did say 1560. The only reason I went 1560 was because either you were wrong now or you were wrong then. You couldn't be wrong both. You were right then.
No, I'm wrong now. That's what it is.
Right.
I'm absolutely. It's 1560.
Purity law of 1560. 60?
1516. 16.
There we go.
1516.
Hey guys, one more time.
I don't know why I have
1516.
Yes. 1516.
There we go.
Basically, it says that beer can only be produced at the time with water, barley, and hops. There was nothing else you could put in a beer in Germany. It's not just Germany. There's a whole bunch of different countries that evolved back and forth. It was enacted in Munich.
So was the only uniqueness between different beers at that point under that law the amount of each one?
Basically, and the different types of hops. Hops is not just one type of hops. There's different types of hops.
Fair.
But basically, at the time, before that moment, there were people putting all sorts of different things into beers that really shouldn't be. Like poisonous plants, and they were using some poisonous plants to flavor the beer. They were using fungus. They were using all sorts of different things, and it was bad. So kind of what happened is beer was important at the time. Beer is important now. But beer was really important at the time.
Beer is way more important now to me than it was in 1516.
Well,
just so
I don't know. So here's the reason why. So monks, because you always hear monks brew the best beer, right?
Well, I've never heard that, but fair
really?
enough. Monks brew beer? So they just sit
dude.
silently, they write, they read, and they brew beer?
Well, yes. So actually,
how?
Belgian monks...
Wait. I know I'm not the only one. How have I never heard that portion? Because I would have at least looked towards becoming a monk more if I knew that was a part of it. Like, all I ever heard was the reading, writing, and the vow of silence. And so that sounded boring. I could have drank beer.
Well, not every monk brews beer, but there were a lot of monks that did brew beer. And one of the things is beer was very important to them. You know the phrase liquid bread?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So the liquid bread phrase, that comes into play with monks. So monks used to do like 40 days of Lent or whatever, and they wouldn't eat for 40 days.
Oh, geez.
But you know what? During those 40 days, they might not be allowed to eat, but they're allowed to drink, and beer is a very filling drink. So they became very, very good. Monks and nuns became very, very good at brewing beer and or liquid bread.
I never knew this. This is amazing.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it? But yeah, so you have the liquid bread. So basically this guy, Duke Wilhelm I think it's the fourth? Duke Wilhelm the Fourth, yeah. This guy was like, I really like beer, but we got a problem. You know, we if we let beer be anything, we get all these crappy different types of beers. And also, we need wheat and rye for our bread because we don't have enough bread in this country. So what we're going to do is we no longer can use wheat and rye for beer. Not anymore. Now it has to be only barley. Barley and hops was chosen because hops extends the shelf life of beer, as well as it gives it that nice, bitter, happy little flavor on the back end. Basically, yeah, those are the three main ingredients, though. Water, barley, and hops. So that was the German thing. It's basically this law said, hey, you can't put anything else in beer, and it was to make sure the beers were drinkable and wouldn't poison people. Now, these laws still exist today. They're slightly changed, but they still exist today. So over time, things were changed about the law. So first and foremost, we eventually added yeast. Yeast wasn't part of the 1516 law because they didn't know yeast existed. So,
what?
I mean...
Why didn't
they don't know about microbes?
I don't know enough about yeast to actually act as confused as I did. I've always known about yeast, so fair enough.
Yeah, but they didn't know about it. They just knew you leave it out and it starts to get fermented and it's magic.
Go ahead. Yeah.
But yeah, so yeast was added later. Eventually it was only handled for basically, you can't have a German beer right now. You can't make a German beer and have it in Germany if it's got ingredients other than those four things, really.
Give me again. It was barley, hops,
water, and
yeast. And yeast was added what year?
I don't remember. Didn't matter.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
It doesn't matter. I mean yeast was
matter
always
to some
included.
People. But anyone who wants to know it, that's what Google's for. You're on some form of internet device right now.
No, but it's kind of crazy, right? Like, those are the only four ingredients for a whole thing, and it still exists. For a while there, just recently, well, I say recently, I think it was in the 80s, there was a big hubbubaloo about it, like, oh, this is limiting the amount of the amount of like craft brews, like we can only do so much, we can't do all the fancy things other countries are doing. And so there was a whole thing about that.
In Germany? Like, people in Germany are mad about it?
They were, yeah.
Wait. But here's my question. Hold on. No. It may be a valid point to make. Does the purity law not make it, though, that they could brew essentially, like, let's say a fruit beer or whatever? Like, you're drinking a pumpkin beer right now. That couldn't be German.
No,
Hold on. Wait. Let me finish what I was saying. Could they not brew it if they named it something other than beer?
So that was kind of the workaround and the way that they skirted stuff, and they eventually got somewhere along those lines. They were not allowed to quite call it beer.
So you mean the people that were bitching and complaining about it are just bitching and complaining to bitch and complain because they're still allowed to make the stuff?
It was actually a lot tougher before then. There were some rule changes that allowed for that, but yes, no, it was not just bitching and moaning to bitch and moan. It was actually, there was a reason for it. Because they weren't allowed to brew it. Like, it just wasn't allowed.
Even as another drink. They couldn't do the workaround.
Correct. Yeah, there was no workaround for it.
So that changed after they complained.
That changed, yeah. That did change over time.
Did they have to riot, or were they able to just protest? Sorry,
that one they were actually just protested, honestly.
Wow.
There were some protests involved with that. But, yeah, no, it's just kind of fun. Like, that's literally what it is. And there was another point that I had, and I don't really remember what it was. But, yeah, basically, the whole point of it was Duke Wilhelm IV really liked beer. Duke Wilhelm IV wanted to drink beer that wouldn't kill him. Duke Wilhelm IV wanted to have wheat for beer, or for bread. He wanted to be able to have bread. So he was like, fine, this is the law now. Only these 3 ingredients: water, barley, and hops.
Wait, I missed something. I promise I was trying to listen the whole time, and like, it was obviously I was very into the topic. I'm just saying, like, I'm sorry I missed this if you said it. He wanted to brew a beer that wouldn't kill him?
Yeah, no, because people would put anything in beer rather than hops, which was chosen as the thing that doesn't kill people and is what we use in beers today. People would put things like fungus and like nightshade and belladonna as the flavoring additives.
Did you say that already and I missed it?
Yep, you completely, yeah.
I'm sorry. I was focused on pouring a beer or something.
Yeah, exactly. No, but that's what they would add for flavoring and for stuff because, again, just barley isn't enough. That doesn't really do it. So you have to add flavorings and hops is what we ended up doing that wasn't.
Wow.
But things like this beer that I'm drinking right now would not be allowed under the German purity law. It is a double blonde ale with honey. So I actually have honey in my beer.
Let's see. I know I'm reading weird. Sorry, America. That's not even my ingredients.
Yeah, you're not going to see the ingredients. I just know what's in mine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was a brew.
Mine's a Kona Light Blonde Ale. There's got to be something in it that Germany would be like, yeah, no.
There's a ton of stuff. In fact, it's probably a wheat beer.
Oh, there you go.
It's probably not used by barley. It's probably using wheat.
Wait, did you say wheat beer or weak beer? Because if you said weak beer, screw you, man. No, sorry.
No, wheat. It's probably brewed by basis of wheat. I mean, that would be my assumption. I could be wrong, but wheat's cheaper than rye.
Fair enough.
Or wheat's cheaper than, barley. But in any case, yeah, it's kind of crazy, right?
That is crazy. I'm sorry I don't have much on the purity law of 1516. I wasn't alive then.
Yeah, like, I don't remember this. It was before my time. I was never good at history.
That's what I said. I'm way more into things that at least happen, even if they happened before my age of understanding, they happened within my lifetime, so people were talking about it as I was growing up. But no, I'm just kidding. It was really interesting, and you said a few things that really just kind of shocked me that I didn't know about. So I appreciate you sharing that.
But yeah, actually, one other thing. So for a bit there, they weren't allowed to...
I was about to say that. I'm like, I'm not quite ready to move on to shot number 3 if you want to keep us going for a minute.
Yeah, so one other thing that was kind of interesting about it was, for a while there, Germany wasn't really even allowed to import beers that didn't match the law.
Yeah. Okay, no.
Yeah.
Thank you for keeping us on this. What?
Yeah, so if it didn't match their laws, they weren't allowed to import it as a beer. Because it's not the purity laws. It doesn't match the purity laws. Now that changed, but over time, and they allowed it. They suddenly allowed imports, but yeah, no, it's for things to be called beer in Germany, they have to follow those ingredients. But yet, you wouldn't be allowed to import something if it had other things.
But again, that's the thing, and maybe you don't have the exact answer, so I don't mean to like make you feel bad, but neither do the people listening, or if they do, they should be writing it in the comments like, you dumb such and such, this is what the answer is. They couldn't import it. Well, I don't know if they could change the name importing it, but they couldn't brew it as beer, but they couldn't brew it as like like Kona light blonde ale drink or something like that. Almost like cheese food. Like, you know what I'm talking about? Like how there's things that aren't actually cheese in America, but they call it cheese food, and so it's okay legally.
But notice that's an America thing.
Okay, so over there it wasn't something they were allowed to do.
It's just like
even under a different name, if they knew it was supposed to be a beer, they were like, no, you're breaking the law.
It's like, this is not a beer.
Okay.
So that was for a while there. And so importing.
I understand the protest.
Yeah, well, I mean, ish.
Well, you know.
The beers, but so no,
you're
actually,
drinking yours wouldn't be allowable either. So you understand it in the sense that you want to be able to drink beers that aren't just those 4 ingredients.
Of course. No, and again, I think that's where they've come to a good agreement now, and they did that. But back in 15, 16, and even up through a certain amount of time, I understand where they were coming from.
Right, when you could put fungus and stuff instead of hops, and like you said, who knows what the side effects would be. So,
but I mean, that's where the nuns and the monks were like, we're good at brewing beer because this is what we live off for 40 days.
Sure.
So think about that. 40 days, no food.
That right there. Beer. No, come on. That right there is the most shocking thing. Like the fact that I would get drunk under a table by a monk is...
Okay, did you ever... There was a show, I think it was like it only lasted 1 season, about a brewery, a guy starting a brewery, and he ended up learning stuff from his, like, I can't remember the name of the show, but
you can't ask me if I remember a show you don't know the name of, Zach.
Right, I don't remember the name of the show, but basically these guys start a brewery, and they're trying to do it. It's 2 brothers. I think it's the Wilhelm brothers.
That name's familiar.
Well, that's because I just talked about Duke Wilhelm the Fourth.
That's 100% why it's familiar.
Yeah.
I love this part of the show because I'm starting to get drunk, and there's the 3rd shot coming up very shortly that I'm like, I'm going to be having an interesting night.
Yeah. No, but Duke Wilhelm III, or Fourth, he was...
the Wilhelm brothers, something about the show.
I think that was the show's name, the Wilhelm brothers or something
and
like that.
They were creating
They were starting a brewery.
Right.
And so one of the brothers had like business acumen and stuff like that. The other brother ended up going to Germany to go live with monks for a while. And people are like, oh, you lived with monks, cool. And it's like, no, they were partiers. And like the monks show up and they're freaking like frat brothers.
That's amazing.
And they can drink anyone under the table. But the monks used to be able to drink anyone under the table. Like some of the best beers, like even there's beers today that are you can still go in the store and buy that are really good.
That were originally brewed by monks.
Yeah, and that are still brewed by the monks.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Okay, that's the answer to my question, because you said they used to be. So there are still pockets of monks in the world.
Tons,
that are.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Amazing.
That's the type of monk life that I'd be in for. 40 days of just drinking beer.
I love my wife.
Liquid bread.
I love my daughter, soon to be son. But, you know, if I had known, I don't know if I would have chosen a different.
Your daughter who is soon to be your son?
My son who's not born yet, sorry, okay. And my daughter who is here. But anyways, yes.
Okay. No, I think we've covered a good bit there. Are we going
to topic number 3? Is it time for us to be ready for shot number 3? All right. So I almost, if anyone's watching this closely, I doubt they are, but I almost shot my Batman shot for topic number 2, but I purposely saved it because as much as I went on in topic 1 about how much I don't agree with vigilante justice. There is one example clearly displayed on my hat and on my shot glass. I do love Batman. So for topic number 3,
well, hold on. Let's do our shot, and then you could say your topic. I know. Come on.
I'm sorry. You're right.
You see, you got me all built up for this topic, and then you blew your load early. Like it was terrible. What are we talking about? Come on. Now I took my shot. Now I'm ready for the topic change.
You're like, now stop delaying. I want to know what topic number 3 is. Topic number 3 is big Batman news. I am a nerd. You're a nerd, but of a different kind. I don't know if you have the same kind of affection for comic book Batman and all that type of stuff. But there was
I'm
big
a geek,
Batman news.
Not a nerd.
Ooh,
there's a difference.
Okay. Fair enough. I don't know. Do you have the difference, or you're just saying the difference is I don't care about Batman, but we'll talk about it anyways?
No, I think there is actually like a major difference. Like, the people like get into major debates about it. I think nerds just mean that you are interested in something, and geek is kind of almost a derogatory term in ways, but it's also more of a, I think geek's more of a lifestyle than a nerd.
Oh, fair enough. Fair enough.
I don't actually know.
We're way diverting from the topic. Let's talk about Batman.
So, Batman.
So big Batman news. So first of all, any of our comic book fans that are listening to the show,
that actually worked.
Thank you. They know what's going on, which is they announced that Ben Affleck is coming back to Batman. As of 2019, he was out of the role. And I don't know if you know this, Robert Pattinson, which is from Twilight, they put a vampire in the role of Batman for the new one. The trailer just came out. I will say the trailer looks interesting, very Christopher Nolan-y. But Ben Affleck is coming back to Batman. They are also making a movie that will involve Ben Affleck's Batman and Michael Keaton's Batman. I don't know if they'll bring any others in. R.I.P. to Adam West, not him. But my point being, which is the new Flash movie that they're working on. So I was really excited to hear about this. Yes, because time travel and different dimensions and yada, yada, yada.
And they crush all the dimensions into one dimension, and then somehow the dimensions split back up again.
I mean, the movie comes out in like 21 or 22, so I don't know yet, but we'll find out together. Not literally together.
A really important question I have to know is, Will Arnett in this movie?
Okay, no. Wait.
This is really, really important to me.
I know. Can I tell you my favorite thing from the Lego Batman movie? And it's a good movie. Will Arnett, shout out. But can I tell you my favorite thing? And maybe they use this in the other Lego movies. I haven't watched those as thoroughly. The pew, 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 every time the Legos are shooting.
Yeah, no, don't worry. That's not just there. That's in all of it. It's
of them.
Amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah. Everything is awesome. That's my way of saying that, you know, I do watch the movies. Lego Batman was definitely my favorite one. So yes, Will Arnett should be involved. I'm afraid that he may not be, but that would be incredible if they even spent like 15 seconds of the Flash movie where he turns into a Lego and goes, wait, this is weird, and goes right out of it. I would die in my seat.
That's what they did in the Teen Titans.
You're right. No, that was amazing. Oh, I saw that. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Where they converged all the worlds.
Well, so the Teen Titans, like the animated film, there was a clip of it. So basically there was a Teen Titans TV show, right? And then they did like a Kid Teens Titans version where they're like kid animation. And then during the kid animation movie, it does a clip back to the real Teen Titans.
Yes. Yeah, and they're like, what is this? Because a lot of fans were kind of complaining about the newer Teen Titans, and so the old Teen Titans were like, this is terrible, and it was funny. I know what you're talking about there, too. I did mix that up on the CW network. They did a big, like, universe kind of bring together arc. And they did bring in multiple Batmans. They even brought in R.I.P. to Adam West. They even brought in, though, I believe, Burt Ward, which was the original Robin from the old Batman series. Anyways, I did want to ask you this question because I know you don't. I know you'll probably watch the movie, right?
Yes. Well, actually, so I've actually caught up on the whole DC universe.
Ooh.
So, mostly. I'm still working through some of it. But basically, I was watching, I got HBO Max because it's free, because I have AT&T internet. And with it being free, I was like, oh, okay, cool. You know, I'll catch some of these things up in the DC. And I was like, oh, Doom Patrol, it's fun. And then it did crossover clips with other things. And I was like, oh, okay, wait, these all interconnect. And so then I'm now watching Flash, Green Arrow, and they're all like, one of them was the big crossover, four episode, 5 episode, whatever it was. Crossover from all the shows. And I was like, oh, okay, now I have to go watch all the shows to get up to this point to go ahead and understand what's happening. So I caught up in the DC universe.
Can I actually tell you, I made fun of you for not being a big enough nerd in this way. I'm not caught up on the TV shows. I'm not. I watched the crossovers. I watched all of that happen. I forget what they called it, but I did not go back like you did. Just like you do the research more than I do. I didn't go back and feel like I needed to catch up. I figured I'd figure it out. But what I was going to say is, well, no, you go ahead. So on the DC universe, where are you at? Where do you feel?
It's fun. I still prefer Marvel to the DC universe. I'm sorry.
I'm a Marvel guy.
But yeah, no, but the DC
so
universe
that's actually why I wanted to bring this up as a topic. I'm sorry. But because I wanted to ask you two really important questions. Who's your favorite Batman of all? Actually, no. I'm going to do a quiz you probably will fail. I'm letting the audience and you know this ahead of time. How many Batmans have there been in some form, I'm being very, of a Batman movie? And it doesn't have to be Batman as the lead, but I'm saying Batman was a character in this movie. Now, maybe in the comments, I'll even be wrong about this, but I have my number.
Are we talking how many different renditions of Batman?
Actors, yeah. I mean, you don't have to name the different actors even. If you want to give me a number, I'll give you a pass on that if I get this correct. But in some form of a Batman movie, so I don't mean, I should clarify this. I don't mean voicing outside of, I will count Will Arnett. So give him one because I actually am adding one to my number because he did a great job.
I was like, I don't think you counted Will Arnett.
Yeah, I didn't. And now I will. So Will Arnett is added to my total. How many total Batman movie actors have there been outside of animated with the exception of Will Arnett?
Outside of animated. Okay. All right.
I just don't want. I don't want silence for our audience here. No. It's on me. It's on me. No. I'm double checking my number. So we'll name them for our audience. There is, of course, in a movie, Adam West.
Yes.
There is Michael Keaton. There is Val Kilmer, who very much was my favorite Batman. Actually,
makes sense.
Time frame, right? He came out 94, 95. I'm like 10 years old. Of course, I'm gonna love that Batman. But that's Batman Forever. So anyway, so Val Kilmer, George Clooney, terrible. Not him, just as a Batman. Yes. And then Christian Bale. Now, there will be, so I will. So maybe number 6 is Robert Pattinson. Did you count him as your 6?
Nope. Will Arnett.
Okay, so that would be 7. But Will Arnett would be 6. Okay. And I don't believe there's any other. I wanted to make sure you got Adam West. And then of all those that we named, let's take Will Arnett out since that is technically animated. On. I know.
Will Arnett is the best Batman.
There you go. That's your number 1.
Darkness.
Who's your number 1B? Who is your top Batman?
I told you. Will Arnett. Will Arnett is Batman.
Really? You're not even going to give an... Okay, go ahead.
Honestly, that's fun. Like, I just love that caricature of Batman. It's just fun. I don't know. Probably Val Kilmer probably actually wins, I'll be honest.
Really?
Adam West is
that's
far more
an
fun.
age range thing. Adam West is right. Adam West
far
is
more fun.
Classic. Yep. So I actually, what's funny about that is I thought, and this is why I wanted to bring it up, I thought that my favorite was probably Val Kilmer, like I said, because he just hit the right time in my life, and I do enjoy Batman Forever. I recognize Michael Keaton in a way because he expanded upon the movies of Batman, and he allowed everything that's come since as the classic Batman in that way. And I actually would argue for Adam West because, like you said, Adam West is just awesome. Rest in peace.
Yeah,
but Christian Bale is actually my favorite Batman, and the reason I say that is because the movie in my life at 33 years old that I have spent the most money on is The Dark Knight Rises. No, The Dark Knight, not Rises.
Yeah.
The Dark Knight. And so I literally went to that movie at least, I think, 6 different times. I would pay for other people to go see it because they would tell me, oh, I've already seen it. It's good, but I've seen it. And I'm like, well, if I pay for you to go, will you go see it again? So... So that
says a lot about that.
So that went, especially because this is like whatever year that came out and I was broke as could be, right? But
wait,
my point with that being, well, you know, Not anymore with furlough. Anyways. But my point with that was that Christian Bale should get recognition as my favorite Batman because I've spent the most of my own hard-earned money to pay to go watch him as Batman. But no, I guess that's the big reveal. Christian Bale is to me the best Batman, but I will go watch Robert Pattinson as Batman too. More than that, though, I left something out. There's 2 other pieces I want to touch on. Ben Affleck's coming back in the Flash movie. You know who else is coming back in the Flash movie? Not Adam West, as we've talked.
Really? They're not going to bring back a hologram?
No, I mean, they could. Technologically, they could.
Yes.
But no, it's not Adam West. Do you know who's coming back?
No.
Michael Keaton. Michael Keaton is coming back as Batman. So what it is Flash is going to go to all these dimensions. So we're going to have a Ben Affleck. We're going to have a Michael Keaton. Now, Michael Keaton will
What about a George Clooney?
No George Clooney.
Michael Keaton. Because I feel that is a requirement.
I am not sure. I could be wrong. We'll find out when the movie comes out. I think it's 2021. Don't hold me to it.
FYI, I hope we make change beers again.
Ooh, what's on now?
Now I'm doing an OBP. Apparently, I'm on a bit of a honey kick at the moment, but Orange Blossom Brewing Company, OBP.
Oh, I mean, it's a Florida brewing company, but I think I've had
It's over in Lakeland.
Yeah, all right. I got Tampa Bay a few weeks ago. You got OBP. We're trying to help out some local businesses.
This, Don't Poke Back beer, or Don't Poke the Bear beer, it's actually from Florida as well. It's whatever. It's brewed for Henny Honey Company. I don't know
what that means.
It's a company named Fort Pierce.
Oh, nice. That's not far.
Hey.
Okay, wait. We've gone way off.
I know. But you were saying that we have anybody but George Clooney.
Right.
And Will Arnett.
No. Unfortunate. I hope not. I hope that's the surprise. I would woo and clap at the movie if they bring in Will Arnett Lego Batman more than I will if they bring in George Clooney, the worst Batman of all time movie, Batman.
Yes. But the DC universe, they had a little fun with it, especially when you get to the League of Legends, I think they are, right? No, what is? Yeah. Mm-hmm. They don't take life seriously whatsoever. They're just completely they have no sense of seriousness throughout their show.
Interesting.
Right? It's League of Legends. That's the TV show with the time travelers.
You're talking about, yeah. That has all the, what do you call it? No. But so what was your...
I was just saying they're just so... They're so like chill and silly. I think that they could easily throw in Lego Batman into that type of episode.
But like you said, I don't think if they spent 15 seconds or less in a Lego world in a real Batman movie, other than people being like, wow, I don't think anyone would actually get that angry. I mean, some people would, but nobody that's worth your time. But anyways... Right. We've gone way off. My whole point was I wanted to know who your favorite Batman was, and I really wanted to reveal to the world that even though I love Adam West and I want Michael Keaton to be my favorite, and I acknowledge by my life that Val Kilmer was my favorite for many years, Christian Bale was the best Batman. Oh, and actually I'll bring up one more point. 2 more points. 1.
5 more points. 6 more. 10. What? No, go.
There is a rumor that Christian Bale... because he said he's done with Batman after Batman Dark Knight Rises, turned down $50 million to appear in this Flash movie, because they were really trying to get as many, at least live action Batmans as they could. And, which is just sad, because, come on, man, show up for a minute. But, whatever. I'm just saying, I just wish he would have. I'm okay with it. I'm just sad. But, also... who holds the record for most Batman appearances if all Batmans projected are made?
Wait. Come back at me. I don't understand the question.
So from now until the rest of time, from 2020, so not canceled Batmans. So I'm talking about, this Ben Affleck, Michael Keaton, blah, 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 all these movies. Let's say they all get made because, again, I just joked that we may not make it to October. Who holds the record for most Batman appearances?
Ooh, it's a great question.
It will be. Can I tell you?
Yeah, please. I have no idea.
It's going to be Ben Affleck.
Really?
He has already appeared in 3, which ties our friend Christian Bale.
Correct.
But since Christian Bale turned down $50 million, reportedly, Ben Affleck will be hitting number 4 by showing up in this Flash movie.
Out of curiosity, how many movies was Adam West in?
Only one movie. He was in a lot of TV shows, but he was only in the one movie. Right. They did one big movie where they brought in everybody. Burgess Meredith and... Oh, I wish I could name the others, but the guy who played the Joker was great. The guy who played the Riddler was great. Burgess Meredith, of course, played the Penguin. But
so wait, hold on. Stop. So you're saying if Will Arnett is in this movie, then he would tie as well?
Is it a tie, or is he at 2?
Will Arnett was in Lego, the first Lego movie.
Okay.
He was in Batman, the Lego movie. Wasn't he in the second Lego movie as well?
You would know better than I would. So if you say he was, our audience can call us out in the comments. But
I don't know. But if that were the case, and he were to show up in this one, would he not also tie?
Interesting. That's a good point. So he definitely was in the first one, because that's what spurned the Batman Lego movie.
And I can't imagine that they didn't include him in the second one.
No, not after the Batman Lego movie and the success of him in the first one that led to them making a whole Batman movie. Interesting point. I did not find that information, but you're probably correct. You know what? Hey, we start the whole show with you telling me what I'm wrong about today. I was saying by this movie being made that Ben Affleck will be the record holder. We don't know that Will Arnett won't show up. He probably won't, but we don't know until the movie comes out, right?
Even a 15-second clip.
It still counts. Even a 1-second clip. If he shows up on the screen, it counts.
Yep, there you go.
So there's a chance until 2021 or whatever year they actually release the movie that I am wrong. And I think me potentially being wrong is a good way to wrap up the show. What do you think?
Absolutely.
All
Sounds
right,
like a plan.
Wait. Let me throw it out. Everybody follow us. YouTube, please subscribe. Subscribe on your favorite podcast listening platform. And find us on Twitter at alcoholscorrect. Instagram at alcoholically correct. And of course, alcoholically correct. By then, you should be able to find our logo on Facebook. And we appreciate you all.
Yep. We may not always be correct, but we'll always be alcoholically correct.
Cheers to that.